Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Carlson. We are having a panel on leadership in space, technology, and partnerships. I'm joined here by an outstanding group of people from both government and industry here to talk about exactly those topics. So real quick, as we go around, if you could please introduce yourself and discuss very quickly your organizational R&D approach. Nicole?
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Josh, for having me here. What an esteemed cast of participants we have here today. Really looking forward to the discussion. I'm the Chief Growth Officer of Comtech. Comtech today is really leading new ways of developing ubiquitous, smart enabled connectivity anywhere, anytime. We've been about this business for 50 years or so with proven technology in the ground systems infrastructure domain, modem technologies, really bringing our capabilities from a satellite communications perspective to those unconnected, helping to bridge the digital divide, empowering our customers globally with access to critical insights and connectivity where they need it most. In my position as the Chief Growth Officer here, R&D is actually near and dear to my heart here, and as is the evolution of our business. So I'll try to connect those two together succinctly. Over the past year and a half, we've been hard at work here at Comtech, taking what was previously 14 different disparate operating units, bringing them into two different segments. We have our satellite and space portfolio and our terrestrial and wireless portfolio. Why that matters for an R&D perspective: our entire approach to the market has evolved. So in the past, as a product-oriented enterprise, as you might imagine, you're developing product, you're developing componentry, putting it on the shelf, pricing it, and pushing it to market. We've evolved in that ecosystem, bringing all of those different critical communications and connectivity elements together to now more of a solutions orientation. So when we think about R&D, instead of starting with the product, it starts with our end user's requirement. So if we understand that our customers need insights to the tactical edge to get their geospatial data to those who need to make decisions in the field most rapidly, we're then in position to integrate a solution for both the connectivity layer as well as the geospatial layer coming in as an example. So our R&D philosophy has evolved, as has our organization over the past year and a half, and really exciting times here for Comtech and a lot of the connective tissue going on with some of the government and industry colleagues here on the panel today.
Thanks for having me. So my name is Colonel Rich Nisley. I am the senior material leader for the Commercial Space Office here at Space Systems Command, part of the United States Space Force. And really what my job or my organizational's mission is to search out relevant and game-changing commercial technologies that help us stay ahead of the threat, and to stay aligned with our mission areas and to integrate those capabilities into our overall technical roadmaps and mission area roadmaps to get those capabilities out to the warfighter faster to stay ahead of the threat. We do that in four distinct steps. First, identify, which is really what are the needs for our mission areas? How can commercial capabilities help bridge a capability gap or build resiliency? Or is it robust and mature enough that we can pivot to that capability and get it out there? Implement is that second step, have the most flexible contract available, and sometimes not necessarily own that contract, utilize contracts through our partners in the NRO, the NGA, possibly even some of our partners in NASA or the Space Development Agency if they have an open contract. But then it's actually integrating that, making that capability, getting it out there to the warfighter, building it into our concepts of operations, our exercises, and ensuring that this is something that gets after the need. But then that last step, which is assess, constantly looking for innovation, making sure we leave openness in those contracts for innovation, because The pacing challenge always gets a vote, and we need to stay proactive to those threats. So going back to your question of my philosophy on R&D and also the Space Systems Command philosophy is to stay ahead of that pacing challenge and to go fast. In order to stay ahead of that pacing challenge, we need to go fast, which means we need to get on contracts sooner, which means we need to move money faster, but also not confine commercial industry and allow them to come up with the solution. So lower the stringent requirements and allow commercial to come up with some of those solutions. But like I said, my last piece of it is to leave room for innovation. With R&D, don't just lock it in and you're in production and don't look back, but constantly leave room for innovation. Whether that be through open standards, open API, allowing other technologies to influence the end result.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Josh. My name is Damon Feltman, and I am the chief of the Space Data Transport Cell at the Space Development Agency. SDA is one of Space Force's special acquisition organizations. We were established at about the same time as the Space Force under OSD R&E, Office of Secretary of Defense, Research and Engineering. And in 2023, we were moved under the Space Force as a special acquisition organization. Our principal activity there is to field what is called the Proliferated Warfighter Space Architecture, which has two major lines of effort. One is a transport architecture, space data transport architecture, and the second is a missile warning, missile track architecture. And inside of those architectures, we have major technology increments called tranches. Right now, we have Tranche 0. That is our tech demo tranche that has been launched over the past year and is proving out some of the technology concepts that we have. Our first major operational offering tranche will start later this year, where we will launch approximately 126 space data transport spacecraft, followed by 44 missile warning, missile track spacecraft, all in proliferated LEO. And then after we check those out and get those operationally accepted, we will then transition to Tranche 2, which will add more capability, both in terms of numbers and new systems and capabilities for the architecture. In my role as chief of the transport cell, that is one of several technology-centric cells inside of Space Development Agency that looks at the state of technology that is available to put onto the tranches. And then the tranches are run by specific program directors who are responsible for managing the contracts that are building the spacecraft, getting them on orbit, and getting them checked out. With respect to Space Development Agency's R&D philosophy or R&D approach, I would characterize it as having kind of two major lines of effort. First is the fact that we let contracts and launch spacecraft on approximately 24 to 36 month centers. So about every 2 years, we are all setting a contract for a new spiral of spacecraft. So for that to occur, we can't rely on state of what might be in 3, 5, 7, 10 years. We have to go with what's in the state of the ready. So what is the tech maturity in the market right now, or that will be ready in 2 years when we're ready to launch the next spiral. So there's a deliberate effort of making sure that we are using high TRL capabilities for our next tranche coming up. But in the background, we are not neglecting what is in the future. So we work with the labs to collaborate. So the service labs like Air Force Research Lab, Navy Research Lab, et cetera, to understand where the state of technology is going. We also have our own tech roadmap that is managed by our technical director. And as those technologies advance in their TRL, we look at those through our SBIR program. In fact, just this past week, we had a SBIR close out that had a whole suite of technologies that we were looking for. And then as those technologies mature, we then advance into a broad area announcement for what I would loosely characterize as operationally representative capabilities. So something that is very close to being ready for operational implementation, that might be ready for putting on to a next tranche, or be usable by one of our end users. So it is a looking at what is ready now, but we don't take our eye off of what's coming around the corner.
Excellent. Thank you. And finally, Ben, if you could please introduce.
Thank you for inviting me. Very excited to be part of this this panel. So my name is Ben Reed. I am the co-founder and Chief Innovation Officer at Quantum Space. My background is 22 years at NASA, where I was involved with both human and robotic servicing. In particular, with robotic servicing, my division was focused on robotic refueling. The sky is filled with fantastic satellites that do amazing things every day. And when they run out of fuel, they're decommissioned. So we were focused on bringing to operational status the ability to refuel satellites. And I certainly have carried that over into my new role with Quantum Space. Our R&D philosophy at Quantum Space is to focus first on the mission, focus first on the end state, bringing value to our customers. We are passionate about enabling infrastructure, not just in LEO, but in GEO and beyond. The LEO market is very well served with choices with different rockets, with different GNS service providers, with different ground port entry sites, both domestically and internationally. GEO and beyond, much fewer options for both the national security element, the civil space agencies, as well as commercial. So we are investing our IRAD dollars into mobility and logistics services and data services. Mobility and logistics, the ability to host a payload, deploy a spacecraft from our multi-mission orbital transfer vehicle, OTV. And then that OTV, rather than simply decommissioning itself, it then becomes a data hub for comms, for alt PNT, edge processing on board with AI/ML, so we're less dependent upon the ground for making decisions, but they can be done in orbit. So the philosophy is not to fall in love with the technology. We don't develop a particular widget or a particular subsystem to the exclusion of others. We search for best in class from the commercial aerospace community here in the United States. If there isn't something available, we'll develop it in-house, but we look at what is the existing supply chain, and that allows us to bring best in class, shortest timeline so that we can bring our systems to bear for our customers as soon as possible.
Excellent. Thank you. So thank you very much for introducing yourselves, everyone. So as we move into it, so we talked all about the research, what each of your organizations are doing independently. I want to ask a question about how we're all working together, because together your companies comprise a notable part of the space architecture, both government and commercial. So I wanted to ask, what are your organizations doing now to partner in order to win? In other words, both intergovernmental, so between SSC and SDA, for instance, intercommercial, so between Nicole and Ben's companies, and then also in private-public partnerships, so between the government and commercial. As applicable to your organizations, could you talk about that for a minute or two for each of you, please?
Yeah, very well. Happy to do that. Couple different ways. I'd say, maybe start off with Mozer. So we're actively today at Comtech a member of the Modular Open Systems Architecture Alliance, and very active participant in the Agile User Terminal Group as well. That specific group, the Agile User Terminal Group, is sponsored, in fact, by the Space Force. There, it's about working to define next generation management and control architectures and interfaces between government SATCOM terminals. So we're very thrilled to be working with Mozer today to help those standards and also help to build next generation architectures that helps the Space Force enable their vision for SATCOM. We also participate in a number of other organizations that are focusing on enabling that collaboration and setting the standards across the space and the satellite industry. Some of those include the DIFI consortium, which is the Digital Intermediate Frequency Interoperability. That's why we call it DIFI. It's a lengthy one. That's looking to create standards-based digital ground architectures as well. And in the U.S. Army, even if we take that example of collaboration, they've recently signed a contract with Comtech to deliver what we call our EDIM modem. That's Enterprise Digital Intermediate Frequency Multi-Carrier. Again, we love acronyms, but the EDIM modem is really helping the U.S. Army SATCOM digitalization and modernization program. So our EDIM modems today are designed to support multiple satellite providers, multiple orbits, multiple frequencies, and really positioned to become one of the primary modems used by military writ large, even beyond Department of the Army. So programs like those and others really put us in position to believe that enhanced collaboration across government and industry really helps to bring about these next generation capabilities and maintain that strategic advantage across all domains.
So I think I'll go next. Let's see. So my organization has many different areas under the Commercial Space Office. And it was really good to see this panel come forward, and it was awesome to see how my office is actually integrating with many of the different members and the companies and agencies that are on this panel. So even starting from the top, so Comtech, we are able to procure their capabilities through our Commercial SATCOM office, which is the one-stop shop for commercial SATCOM needs for the Department of Defense. So we're able to procure their capabilities and get those out to the warfighter. Another area under my office is the Space Systems Command front door. We felt it was a big need to have a one-stop shop, if you will, for industry to figure out how to do business with the government. I think you mentioned earlier to us, well over 500 companies. And a lot of them are coming from startups and don't understand how to do business with the government or even who to talk to. So we set up and actually unveiled a brand new website and share tool powered by Salesforce this past August. And Quantum actually has come through the front door. So we've been able to understand the capabilities that they can bring to the table, especially with regards to SAML, and introduce them to the respective decision makers through that can help understand their technologies and where they fit into those roadmaps. But then also the Space Development Agency, and as we heard earlier, putting out those tranches, getting after our space data transport needs, as well as being a huge help with missile warning and missile track. We are flight following and integrated with those capabilities through my office, where through SpaceWorks, we actually run the SIBR-SITR budgets. So working with them, funding some game-changing technologies to get after the fight and maturing those technologies so that we can get them out to the respective mission areas. But also through our Space Systems Integration Office here at a Space Systems Command that is working together to stitch together the overall space enterprise and understanding the enterprise effects. So they run the Program Integration Council. One of the members there is the Space Development Agency. So we have a huge forum of government coming together and talking together, both from the acquisition side as well as the operations side, So now that we do have a Space Force and a U.S. Space Command, the conversations have never been higher, where we're reaching out across the community and understanding what everyone's doing to get after what that collective goal is, which is to stay ahead of the pacing threat.
And I'm sorry, real quick. I know, Damon, you're going to jump in a moment, but Colonel Knisley, you mentioned SAML. If you could just define the acronym real quick.
So that's our servicing, assembling, manufacturing, and logistics mission areas. So, think of refueling in space, possibly maneuverability in space, using another satellite or a vehicle to possibly deorbit a vehicle, or at some point having the ability to do repairs in space. So what that's going to allow us to do is extend satellite mission life, do more passes with a certain capability, and through refueling, or if there was a malfunction in space, instead of that just being a dead vehicle, having the ability to do that repair, whether that through the use of a robotic arm. There's a lot of different innovative ideas that are actually coming to bear and maturing right now. But this is something that U.S. Space Command has asked us to look into, and through our Assured Access to Space mission area, they are doing that. And through the Commercial Space Office, we're bringing them the companies that we feel can do that, and working with Space Force maturing that, and then the PEOs taking those on as a program of record when it's time.
Awesome. Thank you. I just noticed the acronym. I wanted to make sure that we were all level set on that. Damon.
Sure. Thank you so much. As Colonel Knisley mentioned, we do work closely with Space Systems Command on several items, and I'll touch on that in just a moment. We also work very well across, as I pointed to in my opening comment, working with Department of Defense labs, as well as other organizations. So DARPA, Strategic Capabilities Office, Air Force Research Lab, Navy Research Lab, NIWC, the Naval Information Warfare Center, those types of places. And we do coordinate a lot with SSC, Space Systems Command, and I'll pull on that one in just a moment, because it also touches the public-private partnership aspect of it. Probably the place where we are collaborating the most right now is in the next generation of our optical comm standards. So SDA developed and published a optical comm standard as part of building out Tranche 0 and Tranche 1. That was a collaborative effort across government and with industry, and it was built principally to support building out our mesh network capability and consolidating competing technical aspects of where the state of technology was. And as a result of that, we now have we're on our third generation of the standard 3.1.0. But that standard is a public document. It is open on our public-facing webpage, along with several other standards that we built along the way to help facilitate commercial actors to see what we're doing, to see if they have an opportunity for their technology to become part of our architecture. And now we're in the process of building the next spiral of that optical comm standard, and it's a place where we're working closely with SSC. Along with others in the community, to make sure that not only can we communicate at the PLEO layer, but what are we looking forward to be able to communicate to MEO and GEO with laser comm technology. Then I think the last thing that I would point out is that with our public-private partnerships is we are very active with communicating to industry through public releases for RFIs and industry days and specialized studies. For instance, we did a special study this past fall with several commercial companies on looking at what the future might look like if PWSA was interconnected with commercial architectures in a direct fashion, not connected at the ground level, but what would it look like if we were connected at the space layer? And what are the technology considerations, the cost considerations, the other cyber and data security considerations that would go into something like that. So we feel like we do a good job of communicating with industry and working with with others inside the DoD and government.
All right. Commercial to commercial activities or coordination. We are active members of CONFIRS, Consortium for On-Orbit Servicing. This is a purely commercial consortium. There's 80 or 90 companies from both the U.S. and international that are working in common safety standards. Colonel Nisley had a very good description of the benefits that SAML or ISAM is going to bring to the global community. Having lots of rendezvous and docking or touching or grappling in space, we don't want that to be an opportunity for lots of collisions in space. And so the community is working hard to coordinate within itself on interoperability, on standards, so that we together can move forward with secure and reliable servicing in the future. So we're active participants in that, and my background at NASA, leading that group for the last decade, it helps me with that community. On the government to commercial front, I'm on the steering committee for COSMIC, which we love our acronyms. Thank you, Nicole, for that. So COSMIC is the Consortium for Space Mobility and ISAM Capabilities. The difference being, this is a purely governmental consortium. So it's government agencies talking to themselves about how they're going to develop, implement, and one day procure commercial ISAM services. So why is Quantum Space, a private company, involved? Is because they have a steering committee with input from industry to help them as they think through the roadmap for implementation. And so we are honored to be a part of the steering committee for COSMIC. My last duties when I was still at NASA was to stand up a activity within our group to promote the transition of NASA-funded technologies, particularly for servicing, to get them out into the U.S. aerospace community so that those taxpayer-funded technologies and capabilities could be brought to bear for government activities at commercial cost. So now that I'm on this side of the fence, we are actively pursuing several licensing opportunities with these technologies to take advantage of bringing capabilities to bear sooner, less expensively, at scale for national security as well as civil endeavors. So we're happy to do that. I'll also mention quickly, I think that my company and the commercial sector writ large has an opportunity to collect the various requirements of national security and civil, for example, or two different groups within national security to come up with solutions or capabilities to be brought to bear that doesn't require government agencies to have a joint program. I'm going to botch it, but Admiral Rickover has a great quote, the late, great Admiral Rickover from the Nuclear Navy, where he talks about he would rather march on a road to hell than to be involved in an intergovernmental program again. It is difficult with, budget cycles and requirements and stakeholders. So I think commercial companies like Quantum Space have a role to serve here, where we can serve 2 different or 3 or 4 different government agencies with one commercial service where they don't have to combine their programmatics.
Thank you, everyone. So we've talked a lot about it. Obviously, there is a lot going on in space. There is a lot going on in space R&D wise and in partnerships. But kind of the next question looks at, where do you see, we've talked a lot about what we are doing. Where do you all see possibilities for improvement in partnerships, in personnel, in processes to help? I believe it, Damon, I believe it was you that was saying that we need to go fast to beat the threat, that moving quickly is key. And Colonel Nisley, I believe you said that as well. And so how do we help to accelerate that? What sort of areas do you see for improvement in this area?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead. I'm sorry, sir.
I'm sorry. From my seat, I think the place where we're seeing opportunities for improvement are in the government-to-government coordination, because and Colonel Nicely can probably attest to some of this as well. That as we are attempting to accelerate inside of the DoD, inside of the Space Force in particular, the requirement setting cycle, the contracting cycle, the build and launch cycle, those things are now outpacing the rest of other government cycles. So, SDA is awarding contracts and launching on about a 2-year center, and the budget cycle is a 5 years, is 5-year based. The legacy processes for when we were doing, 10, 15-year development cycles, where you had a lot of time to collaborate and coordinate with external government agencies, whether that would be NASA, Department of Commerce, Department of Transportation, FAA, FCC, international, et cetera. Those people get a vote in the overall process, and so we're at risk of outpacing them in some cases. So the places where there are opportunities, I think, are on the U.S. government policy side, to make sure that at the national level, there are efforts made to unify the pace at which the government wants some of these regulatory frameworks to work together and work on a better timeline than where they are today. So I'll stop with that and hand it over to the next commentator. Over.
Yeah, I'd love to kind of dovetail some of the points that Damon just made. In particular, there's a variety of improvements we can make on the processes and policy side, for sure. We think about improvements on the technological side. A lot of the things that we've discussed today, we need simplified hardware and software, open interfaces, and a network that has self-healing and auto-scaling capabilities. We also discussed convergence and the move towards smart networks earlier in this panel, really to take advantage of that full benefit, the benefit that hybrid networks bring to bear, and the convergence of satellite communication technologies. There's a couple of core elements that I think are important for improvement. Continued and enhanced industry collaboration. We won't get there alone. This is one of those that we're, as a the interoperability across the variety of constellations and orbits and frequency is particularly important. Gone are the days where the end users care about which transponder they're on and which frequency and which orbit. They just want to know they have always on connectivity, and it's going to be available where and when they need it most. Standardization is a huge area to help us achieve that outcome, as are open interfaces. Virtualization to make this faster, less onerous from an equipment perspective, and really permit access to additional capabilities, inclusive of cloud-based infrastructure. So when you look at the implementation and the fielding of new technologies, the importance of spanning and bridging those legacy systems with the emerging systems is oftentimes overlooked. So I think there's an opportunity there for us. You think about, how do we deal with integrating and mixing legacy and new systems in the field during multi-year implementation and deployments? It will mean the difference between success and falling short of critical mission goals and objectives. I mentioned before our EDM program with the U.S. Army, in terms of having multi-orbit modem technologies to help in that path of virtualization and digitalization of the infrastructure, that we're really excited to see that momentum and really tip the hat to the Department of the Army for being able to move as quickly as they have. The SDA, of course, as you've heard from Damon, you're hearing from others, they are tip of the spear in innovating and bringing this new technology to the tactical edge. And we're certainly pleased to play any role that we can in that developing ecosystem. But I think all of this shows a healthy amount of foresight and understanding that it probably will take us a few years to get a system that's fully proliferated. And you must support those legacy capabilities through that transitional period. What we're probably most excited about at Comtech are the capabilities that aren't yet fully formed and that we'll continue to see fielded over those next 10 years of, as launch costs continue to drop and compute power continues to increase. Those elements will again also take enhanced collaboration across the industry partners and between industry and government, like we have here today in this panel. So we're very excited to see what that future holds.
So thank you very much for that question. So I would say, since, we stood up Space Systems Command and where we're at now, I mentioned earlier about open dialogue with industry. I would say before we stood up Space Systems Command, we would normally have maybe 4 industry days a year. And a lot of it was the government, preaching to industry, this is what we're doing. And it wasn't really a conversation, but it was just more of, like I said, us briefing and industry receiving. We kind of changed that path. And in 2022, we started having more industry days and specifically gearing them more towards what we're calling reverse industry days, where we would provide industry a problem statement or a vignette. And we would have one-on-one dialogue with industry. And the vignettes and the problem statements were things that we were looking to get answers to. And industry would propose what those answers would look like. Not so much a marketing pitch, but here's how we would tackle this, because I still view industry as the smart people. And they're going a mile a minute, and we need to tap into that innovation. So in 2022, we had over 20 industry days alone. And in 2023, we kept that pace with over 17 industry days. And we're about to kick off our very first industry day of this very young year on the 30th of January down in Orlando. We're about to have our second annual Space Mobility Industry Day, where we'll be looking at assured access to space, but we will also be having panels and discussions on SAML. So we invite all of industry to come to that and really get engaged and have that dialogue with the government. But a lot of the feedback that I hear from industry is, we need to understand, what does the government need? And we have, in addition to industry days, we talk a lot more about what our requirements are, what are our needs. We are engaging on threat sharing. I would say that I'm very close to signing a memorandum of agreement with the Space ISAC. Through open sharing goes into cybersecurity threats that are out there, and talking with industry about cyber vulnerabilities. And that's only going to make their enterprise stronger. But it's also going to help them understand where that pacing challenge is going as well. I'm also working harder on getting the commercial industry involved in our exercises and our wargaming. Because what I like to tell industry is, especially from a space standpoint, it's like no other domain that's out there. In space, we are all working together, whether it be military, civil government, private industry, different companies. We are all in the same orbits, co-located together. And you're even operating over what we call the area of responsibility, where a lot of these pacing challenges are. So all the more important that, we are all one big space enterprise that's out there right now. And we need to start doing more cooperation, more working together, and tapping into the commercial industry innovation. How we are going to do that is, and it was kind of alluded to already, is understanding our requirements, making sure that those requirements aren't strict, that basically pushes out industry, because we need them more involved and integrated with us. but it's also the budgeting process. A lot of this that I'm talking about is great, but industry will also say, show me the money. How we have to fund our companies as well. So we are working out ways to carve out a new budget, utilizing our Cyber Sitters dollars to increase technology maturity and finding budget to catch those technologies and move them over to what I would call more of a program of record, and where we can potentially pivot from an organic build in the government, or take on that commercial capability to build resiliency and field capability gaps. But the government budgeting process is very geared towards systems. And we need to, in the government, figure out a way to break that mold and build more towards capability. With that, it's not so much you're linked in hardcore to a system, but you are looking at what's the best way to get after a capability. And then I think there will also be ways to be more fluid with your dollars and be able to move within the financial system and not have it so strict. So a lot of that are ways that we are doing better, but I've also named some ways that I think we can definitely improve on our relationships together.
Thank you, sir. Hey, Ben, I'm sorry. We're running up against the back of our time. If I could actually, I'm sorry, we might have time to come back to you, but if we could go to the last question real quick, and this one will be for Nicole to start with. So we've talked a lot about what we are doing, what we can do better. As we start winding down on this panel, what is the one or two things, speaking to the audience, which is very broad and includes lots of people from commerce and government, where do you need, what highlights would you want to provide? What opportunities do you have to partner right now with your group to help make some of this a reality?
Oh, I love that you asked that question. Thank you so much. And I think the way we started this conversation is maybe the way I would, put a bow on it towards the end. And that's in our R&D philosophy. What you heard from most of the participants here, whether it be industry or government alike, was that our philosophy is to innovate and evolve at the pace of relevance, and even more so ahead of the pace of need. So the opportunity here to be very collaborative across government and industry, through wargaming exercises, through predictive indicators and understanding what are you seeing in the field today that's a challenge to you? How might we continue to lean forward so that we're able to integrate the incredible technology that's coming out of industry today, line up as industry partners to bring that multi-orbit, multi-frequency, multi-modality capability to the tactical edge, so truly we can do things at speed and continue to save time, money, and lives. That collaboration is central to all of that. I know we've seen a scrappiness come across the industry in the last couple of years in particular. I think we've all kind of caught the startup bug and learning from what some of the new space companies have put forward. And the bigs are taking notes, and they're learning to innovate at the pace of need, ahead of pace of relevance, and something that only can be made possible with that frequent and early dialogue and exchange across industry and government. So really thankful to have had the opportunity to have such a thoughtful discussion with the colleagues here, and I'm grateful, Josh. Thanks.
So where does the government need help? I think, kind of like where Nicole was going, I think we need to, number one, we need to continue the dialogue that we're having. I would say definitely come to the Space Systems Command front door, where there we have a list of all of the industry days that we're going to have. We also even mentioned the ones that are, not SSC sponsored events, because a lot of times we actually attend those. So, you'd be able to see a lot of the government folks there to have those dialogues. But What the front door also helps is some of these newer companies really get their foot in the door and understand what we need. So it's important for them to go there, but also through the front door, we're able to capture your information and understand better the mission areas that you want to get involved in. And from there, we can make those connections to those appropriate mission area owners. So that'll help you understand the requirements, where those problem sets are, and it'll help kind of guide the company's innovation and the R&D. But like I said earlier, we are really leaning forward on getting industry more involved in our exercises and wargaming. Another aspect that I want to talk about is the Commercial Augmentation Space Reserve that we are working to stand up, which is really going to be a voluntary partnership with industry to put industry on contract for a peacetime level amount of capability, which is going to allow us to integrate that capability and exercise it. But through the contract, we will be able to surge or scale that capability across the spectrum of conflict. And then it also provides the reliability that we need because you will be a partner with us in that space enterprise. So please keep your eye on that. But the foundational pieces of that are threat sharing exercises and a good incentive plan for industry. But kind of echoing what Nicole said, thank you very much for having me here. I always look forward to having this dialogue and definitely getting the mission of the Space Force and Space Systems Command and how we look forward to working with industry in the future.
Yeah, I'd like to bring up a topic that I don't believe we've touched on yet, and that's billets or SCI clearances, and how we're kind of in that. We think there's a little bit of a catch-22 that is preventing the U.S. government from taking advantage of more investor dollars, more commercial innovation. There's a lot of opportunities that, for very good reasons, are only released on the high side in the classified environment. Companies, young companies that have access to a lot of investor dollars here in the domestic market are unable to see those opportunities for a lack of billets, and therefore are unable to let the investors know, hey, if you provide me these funds, we'll be able to bring these innovative ideas and capabilities to bear on the U.S. government. So the U.S. government misses out on getting access to those investor dollars because these companies aren't able to see the opportunities. And of course, you can't get SCI billets until you're on contract with the U.S. government at that level to be able to get it. And so I understand why or how we're in this box, but if I would leave that to this group and everyone listening to this summit to think about how to break this cycle so that we can get more innovation, more investment dollars to bring to bear on these very challenging problems. Once the problem is able to be talked about in the open, then the front door does a great job of making the community aware, as does SDA for its things, and many other open opportunities that are put on SAM.gov, for example. So I leave that as a challenge to the community, as a way to help both industry and help the government get access to more capabilities that they might be missing out on.
Hey, Josh, thanks to you for moderating. Thanks to America's Future for putting together this panel and this event. And of course, thanks to the panel members for such a great conversation. I'll take the topic of the opportunity and step back one layer and maybe talk about the opportunity for the space enterprise, the space ecosystem here in the United States, and not just unique to maybe the government or a particular commercial enterprise. I think the great opportunity that we have here is to rethink workforce development inside of the United States in order to leverage the space economy that we're right here on the bleeding edge of. So there's tons of focus on STEM related development, and that's well placed to do rocket science. You need rocket scientists, and that's an engineering based kind of function. But to take a successful technology and scale it into a market and run it in the economic setting requires a whole library of skills, some of which are STEM centric, some just require to be STEM literate. STEM just requires STEM awareness, and others need to just have a place for folks who have a passion for space and can work great with their hands. So what I'm talking about is space is infinite, and there should be a place for every type of work skill in the space economy, whether it's STEM or the arts or business schools or trade schools. Skilled workforce who can fabricate the pieces of equipment that we need is just as critical a skill as the folks who design those pieces. So to me, that's the great opportunity that we have before us. And I hope that those who listen to us here in the compiled session, when this is finally put together, will take that to heart and maybe figure out a way that they can affect the education of the workforce. Thanks.
Thank you all. Thank you once again to the panel, everyone involved. Thank you for your very thoughtful comments, and thank you for your time. I personally appreciate it all, and hopefully everyone listening got a chance to learn a couple of things today and knows the next steps that they should take. Damon or Ben, did you want to add anything?
I'm good. Thank you.
Just want to thank you for the invitation to be here. Very, very privileged to be with this august group in discussing these important matters. Thank you kindly.